All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Another LeagueDAO project call / AMA. Um, this week was the start of week or sprint number 3 for when we're our dev towards or our build towards the 2022 football season. Um, and we're really excited about all the progress that's being made and everything that we've got going on. Sorry, I've got dog like bark, like coughing in the background. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think I'll dive into just the general updates first. On the dev front, you said teams just full steam ahead, working on um, the new fantasy football protocol, which is really it's kind of sometimes we call it Nomo version 2, but it's really its own kind of standalone protocol in a lot of ways, because we're sort of combining the Genesis League and the Nomo protocol into one sort of what we're calling the Mega League structure. And that's, like I said, fully underway. We actually are in the process right now scheduling smart contract audits for the core league contracts, because those are done and just about done and ready to be audited. So that's huge, to be able to get that in on the sooner end and not put us at risk down the road. And then we also have got the front end being built and back end components being connected and updates to our the a lot of the updates are really around just the core user experience. So really excited about all the improvements that we've made there and getting to share that with everyone. And then similarly, we also making good progress on the draft application, the player draft application, and the marketplace. The UI and the front end there is looking really good. For anyone that wasn't aware, we also had the snapshot vote that completed on Tuesday. That passed, so that approved the use of the league tokens to determine the draft order of each division within the mega league. Who's going to get the first pick and so on in the player drafts. So that's also exciting because that vote accompanied our other proposal, which ran before that, which was how the league token will be used within the free agent marketplace. So those two proposals are important because they're in line with our goal in terms of adding more utility to the league ERC20 token. So that's moving forward as well, which is great to see. And then we also had a few different great partnership calls and strategy calls with some different groups and communities that we have some ties to, and continuing to explore the different partnerships that we know we're going to need in order to help us grow the community and our users of the actual fantasy football application when we launch it in the fall. So we're also moving forward on that front. So a lot of good stuff for LeagueDAO. I think we're definitely on track in terms of a timing standpoint with development, so that we are going to be able to launch in time for the start of the football season. So we're really excited about everything that's going on there. That's kind of just like the big picture update. Does anyone else in the core team want to jump in with anything?
I'll just jump in and say that I've been looking at the UI, like everything looks like it's coming along and I'm excited. Ultimately, I think that having something really fun and playable that's pushed out by the launch of the football season. Sorry, I'm a little brain dead today. That's pushed out by the launch of the football season is going to be huge. And so like last season, I think we've talked about this on here before, but like last season, I think that a lot of people thought that the Genesis League, or like kind of the manual version of the fantasy football league that we set up, was like that's what LeagueDAO was. And so that made us realize that if we can put out like a playable version um, of kind of like a fully encompassing fantasy football league led by crypto and NFTs, that's really like where our bread and butter was. And so we've been pretty heads down focused on that. And yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Jake said, but I just kind of wanted to give a high level overview for people that aren't on every call.
Yeah, thanks for that, because I think that also aligns with like, there are questions that come up around like our growth strategy and marketing strategy, and I think that's something that I mean, it's super important and very valid questions. I think how we're looking at our growth, there's like different phases of that growth. One component is just getting people to play in the fantasy football league this fall, which is core for us to validate our assumptions around product market fit, and that's essential, right? There's no point in putting a lot of resources behind trying to scale if you don't have product market fit to begin with. And once you achieve that product market fit, then growth comes at rapidly and much more organically. So, and by us effectively combining the Nomo League and the Genesis League, one of the key things that we have is a pretty massive network of contributors and advisors who have supported LeagueDAO, who are a part of the Genesis League, who had teams in the league, and it's an extensive list of who's who of Web3 NFTs, play to earn, and we know that by bridging these together, we're going to be able to get those people to participate and create teams in the new league, and through that champion and like promote and share LeagueDAO, and that is going to give us a really massive reach, which I believe is going to help us achieve what we feel is like a successful numbers in terms of the fall like participation in the fantasy league. So I think all these things come together. We've actually been doing rounds of just like update calls with all of the our advisors and core contributors, making sure they're very aware of what we're doing, and that's also opening up a lot of other doors in terms of the second phase of our growth strategy, which is enabling communities to come and create their own fantasy leagues and tournaments or brackets on non-fungible brackets, or using the fantasy protocol to create their own leagues on there. So because that's a much more sustainable growth and scaling strategy, as opposed to us just trying to get hundreds of thousands of people where we're acquiring them each individually to come in and join the LeagueDAO league. We want you know 100 different communities, and they'll bring their community of people and their network into LeagueDAO and be using our protocols, but through the lens of these communities that they're already a part of. So, and that also opens up a whole bunch of other things, but it presents a much more sustainable growth and scaling model. And it's not like we're asking communities to do something that they're not already doing, because a lot of communities are already running like fantasy football leagues for their just within their community, or creating a March Madness bracket just within their community. So we're actually providing a service to them, and have a good value prop, because it's time intensive and it's consuming, but every community is looking for ways to to have their community be involved. What's the perk to being a part of it? All that stuff, and fantasy games and tournaments, like they're a really great solution to that, and a great opportunity. So I feel pretty good about our plans in terms of growth and scale. But I think the big thing is step one was merging these two, what were separate pieces, the Genesis League and Nomo, into like one fantasy football ecosystem that has all of the fun user experience and like competitive elements that people expect. So that way, this whole network of people that we know come, July and August are going to start talking about football again, then we have that place for them to come in, participate again, and then also spread the word. Yeah, did anyone else think, Varl, you were going to jump in before I went on my diatribe?
Are we gonna answer the rest? Well, there's the. I guess that answers number one. What about number two of the question?
Oh, I wasn't really just diving into the
Oh,
questions just yet. It was more like it ties into it, but it was just more just kind of like just teeing off of what Tyler said.
got it.
But I mean, I can answer. So for anyone listening, I guess you have to come in and look in the AMA questions. But there's this question that first part was asking about just the growth and the number of people in the community and et cetera. The second question, what was just referred to, is that asking, see that we have 10 plus developers and asking about our runway and plans for financial operations, midterm and long term. We're based on the initial funding and fundraise that we were able to do. We have some runway, and we're monitor that, and we're also overall we're pretty judicious with where we spend our resources. I know some people had some feelings about the March Madness watch party, but considering that was a total of $15,000 and was the only like event and like big spend that we've done, I think it points to the fact that we're pretty fiscally conservative at LeagueDAO. And most of our resources go towards development and our developers. And we know that in the like crypto NFT space, paid ads and paid media, it actually gives more of a negative impression than anything. So it's not like we need to set aside a big budget for a paid ad campaign or a paid media campaign. So yeah, we're monitoring and are also taking into account larger economic factors just regarding the market and uh, how things impact our ability to go and raise additional operating capital, or and when is the optimal time to do that. So we're always having conversations, with potential partners on that regard, and are always discussing how we can optimize our budget to extend our runway. But right now, we know that it behooves us to continue to spend specifically on developers to ensure that we build and release the best product possible come the fall. Because if we were to just try and sort of like being penny smart pound foolish at this stage, so that's maybe not the most direct answer, but I hope that gives some insight into how we're looking at it. We feel pretty good about the operating, funds that we have and our existing runway and what we're going to be able to do. Because also there's this larger component of how we've structured the leagues is set up that they really can just continue to grow on their own, and there isn't this the need for like this continued, like we're not going to need a team of 10 developers, even though that's actually a pretty small number in terms of like a larger project. But if you're thinking in terms of like a smaller project, we don't need a team of 10 developers to always be working and building in the like on payroll. It's right now we're in a very dev heavy point, but when we get to a phase where we're more just like deploying some new sports within the same protocol and adding features but not fully rebuilding a whole protocol itself, then there will get leaner, right? And to adjust for that. So it just reflects and adjusts depending on where we are and what's going on with LeagueDAO and what our goals are and where the product is and all that sort of stuff. but I can assure you we do not waste money.
Looks like Vavictus was asking regarding a sneak peek at the UI or beta testing. And I don't think that's coming just yet, but hopefully soon. Yeah, definitely. Jake could probably expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna have different rounds of testing. I I tend to like to take the approach of sort of like red team, blue team kind of thing, where it's good to keep different groups completely in the dark in the early stage, so that way, after like the internal team does a lot of testing, then we bring in more people that can see it with fresh eyes, um, and weigh in. And this is way before we get to the point of like actually deploying it. Fortunately, we're making a lot of progress really aggressively in terms of the actual like front end and UI components. And it's being deployed onto staging. And so we're going through like, initial reviews, testing, things like that. And then we have a group that we use even for non-fungible brackets around like a beta testers group. So if you want to participate in that and want to be a tester, then we'll be able, we can add you to that group, so that way you're in the loop when we open things up for the actual, for the next round of like the larger kind of group of testing. Um, so yeah, there's another question just came in asking about what the Magic Wallet and Wire integration will look and feel like. The goal is actually, really, if you've used any app on the Flow blockchain, like I think it's actually like a pretty good comparison, because that where you're going in and users can either connect a wallet and then use crypto in their wallet to purchase their league pass, or alternatively, if you don't have a wallet, you can create an account, right, or create a wallet using Magic, where you're just entering in, you're basically putting in an email address, and you're authenticating using an email address, and then we will have Wire integrated. So instead of it being the crypto on ramp of like where you then have to purchase some crypto that goes into that wallet and then use that, and then have the second act of actually purchasing the NFT using that crypto, where it's sort of multiple stages. What we're building and why we've focused on Wire is because they have an NFT specific product or component that allows us to integrate it, so that once you have a wallet, you can then basically mint the NFT like you're going through a storefront, and you don't have to have this added stage step of um, first buying the crypto, having it settle in your wallet, and then purchase the NFT using that crypto. So we want to minimize those steps and make it so it's just one smooth flow from using an email to create a wallet and verify, and then using Wire um, to make the purchase and purchase your League Pass NFT. And really, because of how it's structured, all you have to do, the only real purchase that has to happen is the League Pass NFT. But the key there is just making that as smooth as possible, and feeling as intuitive as possible for people that are coming on board that aren't as Web3 savvy.
I think it looks smooth. I mean, it's basically just your typical, from what I'm seeing so far, just basically your traditional sign-in setup, and then you're able to go ahead and quickly KYC with Wire, and then immediately buy your NFT.
Yeah, and one of the kind of other components to this is something that we're also doing is like when we are um, where we basically we're changing some of the elements that are like standard for Web3 applications, like normally, like, right, you go into an app and it says, connect wallet, right? But us changing that button to say sign in instead of connect wallet is a small change that actually has a big effect, because then sign in has a more universal understanding for a lot of people. And if you're a Web3 person, you understand sign in means connect your wallet, and that triggers the connect wallet interface. But just even that, a change like that makes a big difference in terms of our ability to onboard new people into the league that aren't as crypto savvy. There's also the question regarding, are we at a point where we can basically shield like the NFB, non-fungible bracket protocol, to other projects to use, and it's something that we can pitch to other projects. So we're not quite at that stage where we're like, come on and let's like set up your bracket today. But we're already talking to different communities about this, and two, we're working on making the necessary tweaks to that protocol to allow it to make it easy. The most complicated part of it, with us opening up and like creating basically like bracket pools for other projects, is the data feeds and like where the data, like where like scoring and data is coming from, and then adjusting the smart contracts to reflect, and front end to reflect these different like tournaments and pools. But the
Basically
Oracle
trying
component is the most complex part of it all.
It's how you go ahead and feed it in to the Oracle in a way where it's we're going from a single elimination tournament to pick'ems to a round robin, and trying to take those designs into consideration for the format, essentially.
Yeah, so part of what we are doing is like working on like UI and interfaces that and wireframes for different types of tournament pools, not just like the single elimination bracket, like you mentioned. And so we have those ready, and we have good front end devs that can then make the front end of it, but it's how the contracts are then changed, right? How are points and like scoring adjusted, and trying to anticipate some different game models, but also we're trying to do that without diverting the core teams that are focusing on fantasy football away from that focus, because we don't, we want to be really smart about how our team are spending their time right now, and our priority is the new fantasy football protocol. But we definitely have plans, and we see non-fungible brackets as being a really significant onboarding and like partnership and collaboration tool for LeagueDAO, because it's a much lighter load to create a type of like pick'em tournament. And that's also where to like total transparent, that's where we see the best opportunities in terms of integrating and creating partnerships with esports, and those types of games, right? Because then tournaments and stuff, to be able to create these like to create bracket type and tournament pools or pick'em games, those are it's a much lighter, lower dev load than building out a full fantasy league, like season long league. And we also can adapt things a little bit more like easily to different game structures based on like I said, like like Web3 esports and player games that are emerging.
Yeah, I think esports is really exciting for non-fungible brackets specifically too, because then you get into all these gaming guilds that are actually using and playing the games, that where we could have like multi-guild pools where everyone can compete against each other in a whatever it be, Illuvium NFB bracket tournament, or whatever games like Ember Sword. I don't know exactly what their gameplay's like, but yeah, just as these games come to fruition over the next couple of years, I think there's going to be a lot of different ways to connect with different communities that are playing these games, and it only makes sense to focus on these groups too, because they're they have like-minded interests, and yeah, it's definitely exciting.
Exactly, and that kind of aligns with what I was saying earlier. Around that aligns with like phase 2 of our like growth and scaling strategy. But first, phase 1 is product market fit and showing meaningful growth from the like beta and Genesis League. Right, the Genesis League, we had 60 teams participating in one fantasy football league where it was like 12 team divisions. So there were 5 team divisions. Each one was its own Yahoo Sports, like Yahoo Fantasy League. And it was a lot to just coordinate that. So, like, I think the bar's there for us to show like meaningful improvement on that and based on what we're building. So like, and it doesn't mean we need 10,000 people playing in the fall, but we know that with these types of partnerships and strategies and using our different protocols to create a more cohesive onboarding funnel and flow, that we can get to the point where there are tens of thousands of people using LeagueDAO's protocols and participating on it, and then with that, a lot of revenue like going into rewards pools and yield being generated, which means more revenue going to the DAO treasury. So we have a pretty good plan in terms of how do we create a sustainable, like effectively like flywheel, right? But step 1, which is really step 3, because step 1 was back in October, is fantasy football version 2.
Definitely. And Faye Victus was just saying there's a DAO garage.xyz that's into Indy 500 racing, so we could see him putting together a pool, assuming there's an oracle for it. I imagine there's definitely something we could find for it. It's just finding the right.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm in that community too. Yeah, I mean Formula One is something that we talk about a good bit, and we're there's a lot of demand for Formula One, especially in Europe, and it's growing in the U.S. Actually, the Formula One race in Miami is this weekend. FYI, if you haven't watched a Formula One race, I recommend it. Uh, that sport is really smart in terms of making like an engaging watching experience, and it only like the races only last 2 hours, so it's also like the shortest sporting event of all the different sporting events in terms of like when you really need to focus. Maybe, well, that's not true because the Kentucky Derby is this weekend. I guess that's the shortest. But we Formula One is something, and Formula One, fortunately, like there are existing data providers, like API providers for fantasy Formula One and racing. So that's like our existing data provider. They have a data feed for NASCAR, but not Formula One. But we've done our research and we know which other like service providers offer Formula One. So that actually makes it easier, right? Because it's like a clear data source that we can tap into. Esports gets a little bit trickier because you don't have that same like reliable API with all the documentation and everything you need to be able to plug it in. But racing is a big one, and it's definitely on our mind. And I think that's where like non-fungible bracket type tournament and like pick'ems and things like that can work really well with the like fantasy racing game. I know I'm excited. This is not by any means a statement of like partnerships or anything like that. So, right, not financial advice. But I'm excited for Adam, for the Adam Car Club, and for their AI racing game. Um, I just bought secured the ENS for what will be my racing team name out of my Gwei, which I'm very proud of that pun.
That's a good one. Oh yeah, if anyone wants to jump on stage, feel free to request, and you can ask any questions or bring up anything if interested.
Um, It's also one other thing that I'll touch on that we haven't gone into yet on this call is one of the other areas where we're putting in a lot of time and energy is around, looking at the liquidity models for the League token, specifically because we're in the process of bridging the token over to Polygon, which is what we need for the token to have utility in the actual fantasy game itself, because the game will be on Polygon. We're looking at how we're going to build liquidity for that token on Polygon. And really evaluating some different models, not just, and as opposed to, the model that we have employed on mainnet, which is, we've discussed it a bunch, but, isn't the most sustainable model, which is the traditional like LP incentives, like proof of fund LP incentives. So we're exploring that, whether it's like a protocol owned liquidity via like a bonding component, similar to an Olympus type bonding structure, or a like bootstrap balancer pool, where there are a lot of different ways that we can go about this, but we're doing a lot of work and a lot of due diligence to determine what's the most sustainable for us long term and is going to put us in the best place, in order to avoid the liquidity sharks, but also to give us like healthy liquidity for the token on Polygon, because that's important given the utility that we're creating for it. So I bring that up in case anyone wanted to talk about that, because I know it's something that the conversation kind of goes on in Discord, but is not like a big focus of what we talk about a lot. So people might have some opinions and thoughts on that front as well. Or maybe there isn't anything, which is totally fine as well. Yeah, I guess the big question is if anyone has anything they wanted to bring up, now's the time. Any new questions, things like that.
If anybody on your team has a CryptoVoxels plot, make me a contributor, and I'll build you a goddamn spot.
Yeah, I love the idea, especially like I gotta do more research into that, because
There's got to be some legality.
Exactly. The entertainment attorney side of me goes to like, I wonder how that's working, from like who's actually like controlling the streaming of the content, and like, but also I'm not even familiar with like how they work. I mean, I know you can use like YouTube, because I know there was like streaming of like Coachella and stuff like that in CryptoVoxels. I mean, so like there's the like screen and component. We need to find out more information about how that.
Yeah.
You probably know how that works in terms of like using outside.
Kind of the reason why I think that they're so slept on is because people don't understand the power behind their like scripting mechanism. Because you could write like really intense scripts inside of, like, you can build price bots. So I'm sure that you could script some like video stream as well.
Gotcha.
But,
That makes sense. I mean, also this is actually, it's kind of cool to be able to say this, because it's a cool synergy of all the different projects. Maybe LeagueDAO should use EnterDAO to rent out the Universe CryptoVoxels hub to host a watch party.
oh yeah, the Charles Mansion. Let's go.
Yeah.
That would be sick.
I did not, I didn't realize it was called Charles Mansion, and that's hilarious.
Yeah, I built that.
I mean, I guess it is a mansion, which is why you call it. But I just think, were you intentionally making a pun around Charles Manson?
Oh no, I'm slow. I didn't even get that.
Because to me the clown Charles character is Charles Manson.
Right. That's actually perfect. Yeah, we just named it Sir Charles Mansion because like he's just Sir Charles, and I guess Mansion, it just lines up. That's hilarious.
Yeah, if you begin to think of Sir Charles the Clown as Charles Manson, it really haunts your dreams. But it's worth it.
Shout out to Elon Saylor, who just won the Seeker NFT for our recent League Legend giveaway. That one just ended, so yeah, keep your eyes out for some other ones coming soon, but that's a pretty cool giveaway, especially considering they're revealing next week.
Yeah, congrats on that one. I think winning a Seeker is pretty huge because that's that's a big project and can be really interesting to see what happens with all of those when they start to reveal. And we love what they're doing. And we're going to keep doing more of these giveaways. We've got some more NFTs lined up. I mean, I didn't think of it at the time, but we also bought there's an ASM All-Star. Maybe we'll do that one as the next one. And for those who aren't aware, ASM All-Stars will include an airdrop of ASTO tokens. So whoever wins it's going to get the NFT plus be able to claim. I think someone told me don't take my advice for it, but I think it was 1,200 ASTO tokens is what each All-Star is eligible to claim. So just putting that out there. We're trying to make sure that these giveaways are like actual meaningful stuff for the League Legends, as opposed to just kind of like junky NFTs that are just going to sit there.
Definitely. Cool. Yeah, like if anyone has any questions, feel free to send them in the AMA questions channel. We'll bring you up. If not, we can wrap it up soon. If unless anyone else has anything.
You guys might hate me for asking this, but is there any, and I might have missed it because I've been working on other stuff, but is there any plans on like development of a like mobile application where you can kind of track your players?
Right now, no. The main idea that we're currently working off of, first get down the desktop and then add Rainbow. I don't know if you noticed, but Rainbow just dropped their developer kit. So I've had eyes on that, and then once we get the MVP product together, then we start going ahead and putting the Rainbow kit to it, and then you'll be able to interact with it as a reactive web app, so that you could just log in with your browser and then interact with it from Rainbow.
Nice. Yeah, I only asked that because my dad is super like he doesn't really care about crypto, but he like loves LeagueDAO. And like I got him to buy a bunch of the original like crypto fantasy lineups, and he just like the only thing that he constantly requests is like I need an easy way to like just go on a phone app and like look at how I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, like a native app, probably not coming this year. But we are trying to go ahead and put together something where you could go ahead and easily interact with it from your browser on your phone.
Yeah, exactly. We're building like so many Web3 projects. Like we're building in React, and so the React web apps, like we are also building and working to make sure that they are like that they adjust their reactive. Is that what I want to say, or is that not the right term?
Yeah, like mobile friendly.
Yeah, exactly. But also part of what we're doing that is different from the first time around is so there's the actual like scoring components, which is like, your final points and rewards and things like that. Those come from right, like are on chain and are only updated at the end of the week. But we are adding in live scoring feeds of like actual stats and things like that. So the information that isn't on chain, but it gives you the ability to like open up the web app and actually still like in like real time see how your players are doing. And I think that's also going to improve the experience. It's not going to be an application like it's not going to be like an iOS app, but that also I think is going to make the experience more mobile friendly, so that it's not just like, oh, I have this team, but like, having to do all this work in to like figure out like the NFT and to check how the team's performing and things like that. So it's going to be a lot more user friendly in that regard.
Yeah, because I think for people that aren't like Web3 native and are kind of just casual, like fantasy enjoyers, that will actually like help a lot and probably help onboard a lot of people too.
Yeah, and we're adding in stuff, so like yeah, like the UI. I mean, when we share it, you'll see that there's like part of what we're also adding is like an RSS like news feed of just like sports news articles and stuff on the main like dashboard overview, that when you log in, and like you can see all the matches and games in your division and your schedule, but then also see if they're click on different like news that comes through, because we want it to be more of like a holistic hub for people that play fantasy sports, as opposed to, I think that was one of like the pain points with our beta launch, was that you ended up like jumping from like one app to another in order to like get a sense of who was doing what and like what was going on.
Nice, yeah. Because I mean, for my pops doesn't know the difference between an application from the App Store versus how you like on your iPhone you can just save a web page to your like home.
Exactly.
And it looks like an app. It feels like an app.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the perks of React. Although I think one of the downsides, I think, with crypto in general is like just where we are today. Like, I mean, I personally am not a big fan of using like MetaMask, like using wallets on mobile. I really try to stick to only using my wallets on my like desktops. Um, so that's just like a larger, I think, hurdle that the ecosystem has. Because also I know there's some vulnerabilities about using like mobile wallets, but it's just so much. Yeah, we do 80% of our computing on our phones nowadays, so it's definitely a tricky balance.
Yeah, I mean, without going into too much speculation of like what's coming to Web3, I do think that Apple and Google at some point are going to start like rolling out native phone wallets, that like, and that's going to be a like crazy onboarding event. And like, I mean, clearly, like, I'm not going to use that because I don't trust Apple with my keys, but I think a lot of people will.
I'm surprised that Apple doesn't have that already for the Apple Wallet for crypto. But yeah, that I feel like if they don't add that soon, it just doesn't make sense. But
Well, I
yeah,
guarantee it's coming.
yeah, no, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the problem always with Apple and like Android is just their fee structure, right? Like Apple takes 30% of all revenue in the App Store, and if they feel like you're getting around it for different ways, they'll just shut you down. And I think that's been a big pain for a lot of Web3 products.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people shop where they're comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
so normies that are more Web2 native will probably be okay with shopping at Target, even though the products are, at a 30% hike from if you just drove down the street to Walmart, just because they like Target better. You know what I mean? So I think the same applies for Web3.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these are all like really key points that we refer to, look back on in terms of like, because we know in terms of our larger growth strategy, like we have a massive addressable audience and like market with fantasy sports, but we know that we're going to have to bring a lot of that audience into the Web3 space. And I think we're actually going to be able to benefit though from the fact that I think there was a report that came out that someone shared with me this week. It was like a crazy amount of money is going to be spent over the next year advertising Web3 and like crypto products at like sporting events and to sports fans. So that in itself is just bullish for us because that's getting to our core audience, and that's just like FTX and wallets, but it's like it's getting people in the door, and then that's going to make our onboarding flow that much easier. So it's like we're going to benefit, I think, in a lot of ways from the fact that everyone's recognizing that there's this massive convergence of like with sports fans who are also the demographic of like degens. And they're not necessarily marketing fantasies like Web3 fantasy sports to these people. They're just marketing like crypto apps and wallets.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I think we're just about at time. So unless anyone has anything else they wanted to bring up or jump up and ask or talk about, then we can wrap this one up. All right. I'll take that as an answer. Well, thanks everyone for joining the call today, and anyone who listened this long. We'll be back next week with another project call / AMA, and then we will be putting up the recording for this one pretty soon. So if you missed it, if you'll be listening to this, so it doesn't matter if you missed it. You would have found it by now. So I guess it doesn't really matter what I'm saying. Yeah, I guess. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Cool. Catch you guys next time.
Always a pleasure, boys. Talk soon.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Later.